we're back with part 4 of How Do You Get Online Quickly with Jen Kramer from the Harvard Extension School. I'm Erika Lee. I'm from Indiana University, but I'm representing the Online Learning Collective today. In our final video, what we want to do is kind of review, what does this module look like? What kinds of things do I put in it? How do I structure my assignments? And maybe even account for participation, these kinds of things. So Jen's going to show us, what do you have to show us here, Jen?
All right, so I wanted to show you a few little button clicky kind of things, just in case you are all new to this sort of interface. So first of all, as I mentioned before, this is the home page for my course. I clicked on choose a home page, and this is the course modules view that I use as the home page for the course, which you can set here. You can turn off. Now, by the way, I should also mention, Canvas can probably be configured differently for different institutions. So you may not necessarily have all the same choices that I have in my Canvas. However, in my world, I'm just a mere instructor at the extension school. I'm not an administrator. I don't have funky access or anything like that. And these are my courses. I'm not a student in them. Students have even fewer choices inside of Canvas for obvious reasons. If something here is disabled, you can always talk to your Canvas admin at your institution to find out whether you can get these things made available. In any case, I've gone ahead and chosen course modules here as my home page. You can get to the same page over here on the left-hand side going to the modules link. You'll find it over there in the navigation. Click on it and you'll see the same kind of view. To add a module, just simply click on the plus sign right here. And this will give you a screen. You can give it a name. You can even include prerequisites. In other words, they have to complete the previous module or several modules before they can get into this material. That might be a really nice thing to do. You can lock the module if you wish. That would prevent them from getting in before a certain date or time. Okay, cool. Then within a module itself, you'll notice there's another plus sign that's here. And if you click that plus sign, this is going to give you the option of adding a whole bunch of different things to your Canvas course. And they can be new things, or they can be things that already exist. So assignments, quizzes, files, pages, discussions, text headers, URLs. Those are all pretty typical things. External tool is a third-party piece of software that's being integrated here. Some of you might be familiar, for example, with Piazza, which is an online discussion board. That is something that would be integrated through an external tool. So those are going to vary by institution as to what's integrated or what's not integrated, but that's where you would go to get that kind of thing. So as you can see here in my assignments area, I have a whole bunch of assignments here that I can choose from. I could just pick one of those off the list, or I could make a new assignment. If you click on new assignment, I would give it a name, and I can choose how far I would like it indented. That's basically the way that the screen is going to work. What I would like to show you, though, specifically is the discussion forum for a couple of reasons. One, there's a couple of tricks you should know about configuring a discussion forum, and two, there are some really interesting options that go with them. So let's just say that I wanted to create a new discussion forum here. I'm going to go ahead and make a new topic. I can give this topic any name, a model, because it's a model.
You're going to wonder what we're doing.
People will probably wonder. And by the way, just because I've created this discussion doesn't necessarily mean it shows up immediately online. It will show up via the discussion link over in the left-hand navigation, but it's not going to show up in any of my modules. Also, it's unpublished to start with, so you are probably the only person that will be able to see it until it is published. So don't worry about messing around and creating things and deleting them. You're not going to confuse anyone except yourself. All right. We'll go ahead and add an item here called a model. It'll always stick it down here on the very bottom of your module. I'm going to go ahead and just click on that. And by default, it's going to look something like this. It's just going to say that here is my model. Notice that it is not published. Okay, so no one can see it but you. And you can edit it, and I would strongly recommend that. The other thing that will happen here is that you are subscribed to it. If this is not checked for you by default, you probably want it to be checked. This will generate an email anytime somebody posts in the discussion, and that'll be super helpful for you. So if you click on the edit button up here on the top, This is going to give you the area where you can enter the name of the discussion, a model. You can type in whatever it is that you want to go here. This is the question you should answer. Whatever it happens to be, notice that everything is here that you can configure in terms of bolds and alignments. You can also have links here for YouTube and for Vimeo if you actually want to put a video in here, or images. That's all possible. Down here, and these choices, these are the important parts. So you can attach something. So if you have a PDF document, for example, you could attach that. But under these options, this is these are where all the power is, right here. So first of all, allow threaded replies. I so wish Canvas would check this off by default. That is where you have the question, and then you have an answer, and then somebody else answers that, and then that one, and that one, you get sort of that indented kind of thing. You can follow the whole conversation. That's called a thread. And so allowing threaded replies will allow you to reply to each other's post. If you don't check this box, it will just simply be like a comment section on a newspaper or a blog where it's just one thing after another all stacked.
So if you want more interaction, then the threaded replies is where it's at.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So I would encourage that. Allowing liking will allow a little thumbs up sign so people can click on that, and I sort of use it as an informal way where people can sort of give each other an attagirl, an attaboy, or the thumbs up can also mean, I've also used it to mean, oh, multiple students had the same question. And so that's also helpful to know. So I usually turn on liking. I let anybody like anything. And so that's a thing. Now, a couple of other options that are here. These two options are the ones I would recommend for everything that you ever do.
Okay.
Any kind of discussion. If you are going to use your discussions a little bit differently, for example, maybe you would like to turn on the grading option here. Okay, now why would you turn on the grading option? Erika and I both teach programming of some kind or another. One of the things that we had talked about, and it's very common in a programming class, is the professor is describing some aspect of programming and then gives a problem to the class that they tend to work on, maybe in small groups or together or individually, to immediately apply whatever it was that you discussed in class. How do you replicate that online without Zoom? Well, one way to do that would be to give them the problem. You'd put the problem up here inside of this box, and then you could say it's going to be actually, I started talking about grading, and now I'm going off on the other part of it.
That's okay. So you're talking about the participation part now, right? So
you're talking about the participation part.
And you're trying to get them to respond before they see the answer.
Yeah. Well, we could make this graded. We could make it complete, incomplete. In other words, they did the problem, and we'll just make it complete, incomplete. So you would turn on the grading. You could also turn on users must post before they see replies. So here is your question inside of the discussion here. And then you could actually post a reply to this discussion that would have the answer to the programming question you just posted. The student could check their work. They wouldn't see your reply until they, in fact, post the answer to their question, which could then also be graded. See how that all lines up so nicely?
And by graded, you mean they submitted something. So they could totally game the system, but you can only control.
You can simply say it will be graded automatically. How many points are possible? You could just say complete, incomplete.
So then I don't actually have to grade them. But like I said,
grade.
It might be the system, but I have to give up control, right? That's the
whole control. And whatever they post, they've suddenly completed this discussion.
Okay.
So you could make it work a % of their grade, or complete, incomplete, some number of points, a letter grade, a GPA scale. All options here. I recommend for the kind of thing that I'm describing, where people are reflecting on the discussion, just make it complete, incomplete. Count
it's a practice round. If they screw it up and don't do it and just try to get the points, well, they've lost their chance to practice.
Correct. And get immediate feedback. What I'm describing here would give them that immediate feedback of having you in the room or the TA where they work on the question and then immediately get an answer. Here, as soon as they post an answer in the discussion forum, they will be able to see your post with your answer in it.
Okay, I'm feeling calmer, Jen.
Okay.
I'm feeling calmer about this. Okay. So, so what else do I need to do?
Since you could since you are going to post that as the very first reply to this discussion, okay,
Yeah.
you can put in a little short video. Here's the way I approach the problem. Here's my thinking on the problem. Or you can just say, here's the answer. So you could use this technique in math class as they work through a math problem. Then you could go through and explain the problem and your answer to it. You could have, I guess you could do something with the humanities this kind of way where you have a discussion question, they have to write a longer response. But often students are commenting on each other's work in that kind of way. And rarely is there one correct answer, as more typically there is in things like math or science or programming.
Well, I think if I was doing that for discussions, like in some of my courses, I would do something like where my response is, well, if you're having trouble thinking through this, here's some additional, things to prompt your thinking, you just kind of what you would do in class.
There you go. Yeah.
Try to get them to talk a little more, and they stare at you with their screen faces and they just can't. So, you come by and you say, well, let's think about it this way. And you get draw them out a little bit. I think that could work really well.
Yep, exactly. And these things do work independently. So users must post before seeing replies, and graded are independent things. So you could just say it's not graded and they have to post before they see replies, or you can have it graded and everybody can see what everybody's doing.
Right. These are independent things.
Well, this combination probably not so good, because then they're looking at the answers before they post their own.
Sure.
So you probably want both of those things checked off if it's graded.
Okay.
But you can, as we say in the technology world, just because you can doesn't mean you should, but you can in fact make it graded and you can see the other students' answer.
Okay. Yeah, that's probably what I'll do by accident the first time.
Forgive yourself and move on.
What? That is an important point, though, is that we're all new to this and we're not going to be great online pedagogical teachers for a while.
Yep.
Maybe never, but we can try. And, if I screw it up the first week, I'll try to fix it for the second. I mean,
exactly true.
That's all it's got. It's just going to be what it is.
So true. So true. Okay. So I'm just going to go ahead and get out of this, but of course you can save and publish. You can put in due dates. You can turn off the availability, because, by the way, pro tip, if you do make it a graded discussion and you have it due at a certain time, but you don't put up the until date, people will continue to post answers and continue to get credit even though it's late. So if you're going to be a stickler about a due date, you want to make it available only until a certain time so that they can't post after the due date and time.
Okay. That's reasonable.
Okay.
So I think the thing that I want to know before we wrap all this up is we've talked about the kinds of things we can put in a module, but what does that look like? Because we haven't totally summarized what we've put into these modules. So can you show us some examples?
Yeah, sure. So if we go ahead and take a quick look over here, this is yet another course of mine. So you want to organize your module the same way from week to week, whatever methodology you use within a course, you want it to be the same from week to week within that course. As you've seen me model, I have different models depending on what my goals are for the course, what kind of students I have, what kind of work they're doing.
Right.
But pick one and use it the same way through that course. Generally speaking, the way I set it up, there's always a completion checklist, no matter what I'm teaching, because that's going to ground them in what they should be working on this week. There's always a discussion forum for them to ask questions on the material that they have been looking at and ask for clarification. In this particular course, I have some videos. Here I have a page with all the videos that they needed to watch this week that I created. And then I linked off to LinkedIn Learning for some other things that they might want to take a look at. I'm not going to require it. Again, they're graduate students in my world. If you were going to require it, then of course you could require them to go watch this. Here's some recommended resources. In this case, there's some reading and there's a game here that I've asked them to play an online game.
Oh, yeah, that's fun.
Yep, which is super fun. And then down here are some additional resources where they can go read some more. Again, if they're stuck or they're graduate students, so maybe they want more information in a particular area.
Okay.
And then the assignment.
you could tie that assignment to the week if the week has an assignment, right?
You could absolutely include an assignment within here for the particular week.
Right.
Or you could break it out as its own thing. In this case, now this was a crazy class. What I wound up doing was this particular material lent itself more to testing and a quiz in a quiz-like format than it did towards building a website, which is what I usually do. But I wanted a mix of things. I wanted some multiple choice, and I wanted some short answer, and I wanted effectively what would be an essay. In their case, they'd paste in a long chunk of HTML into that particular item and have all of this turned in. And so the way I set this one up was actually, here we go. Here's a part 1, 2, and 3. These are 3 separate quizzes that got configured. They were all due on September 13th. And then that way it supported the different formats for each one of these things within a quiz. So here's the multiple choice quiz. That's a piece of this. Here's the short answer. That's a piece of this. And then the markup problem, which is a long essay style.
And some of those are self-grading, and some of those you have to go in and grade.
Exactly. So the multiple choice, self-grading. Yep.
Right.
Yep. And then, but the short answer, obviously you have to grade that. And of course you have to grade this markup problem. Yep.
Right. And then you also had a different setup. Can you show us that one quickly? Is it easy to get to? Where you had the assignment plus a Turnitin sheet, which we talked about in the previous video, and then a discussion, right? I think that's also a decent setup for most kinds of courses.
Yep. So
some sort of assignment. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a longer one. This would be one that was more typical for what I do. I only do these quizzes at the beginning of the term in this one class. But then this class, more like my other ones, build a website with the following characteristics tends to be the default assessment. And so there's that assignment. Here's their assignment submission sheet. In this case, I was using text files at this point in time. I've recently switched to Google Docs, which spells out all of the things they need to do in that particular assignment. Their discussion forum for asking those questions. And then after the fact, optionally, if students want to share their websites, I encourage them to share their work after things have been graded and the dust is settled. And I have some reflection type of stuff in here. So reflect on what was helpful, what was useful, what was difficult, what would you do differently next time? Those kinds of reflection questions are really good. And they can optionally participate in this. Not all my students do, but some are really excited to see what other people did for websites, or they're very proud of their A and they want to share their A website with their colleagues.
Each other's work. And it's hard when we're online now because we're not, we can't just look at each other's stuff in class.
Exactly.
So this is really, Jen, this has been fantastic. Thank you for doing this. And you said you had a summary, and we can make that available on our OLC Facebook forum.
Yes. So Erika and I have summarized these last 4 videos, and we put together a Google Doc here, which will be available. We'll put it down in the comments below, as they say. And so we have all the things I talked about in the first video about checking on student progress and being sure that your students are okay. We have all the tips here about organizing your modules, the weekly checklists,
and what to include, what to think about including anyway.
Yep. And I'll put in another item here and tell you all my tidbits about discussions as well. So the different ways you can configure those and make use of those in the course.
Fantastic.
So yeah, thanks for asking me to do this, Erika. It's been fun.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you, OLC community. We'll be back with more recordings and more videos and tips, and check our Facebook forum, check our website. We have some learning events happening there. And we also have our YouTube channel, which you're probably watching right now. Thank you very much.